Hello again. Today we're going to cover a systematic breakdown of problem solving, and how this came about for me is I've engaged with quite a few people over the couple of years, but especially recently, I found that men in dire situations, from death in the family, changes in financial situations, just stress-related instances, divorce, so forth, they seem to get into this analysis paralysis. When something bad happens, and then basically it's just the stall gap of almost wallowing and waiting for something to happen, kind of knowing they have to do something but never actually executing a plan, understanding an outcome. And that's the worst case scenarios that I can think of. But I mean, this can be attributed to something as simple as, I want to get a six-pack, right? So I know what I want. I know what it is. But now I have to put those actionable steps in place in order to actually achieve this. And I don't know what it is, but it seems as if men have forgot that our literal function, one of our core functions, is building and solving problems. Yeah, for sure. And I've spoken through these problems with a lot of people, and it narrows down to the same thing. Is like, if I've got a 1,000-piece pile of wood in front of me, and it's blocking my way, and I need to get it out the way. The end result is I need to move it so I can get past it, right? I can't go around, can't go over. I've got to have to physically move it. It starts by moving the first piece, and systematically finding a system and a process to move them so that I can execute said plan. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but I feel men are in this dire situation where they just seem to not be able to solve their way out of problems anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if I can put my finger on one ordeal that's caused that, but like I said to you yesterday when we were basically brainstorming a topic, I'm 44 years old, and I think it recently just was a light bulb moment for me where, life is about solving the problem in front of you. And I do think testosterone plays a role. It's no secret or surprise that the testosterone level of men today is way down. Male suicide rate has been at an all-time high. Testosterone played a role in that. Emotional health and well-being is directly affected by testosterone, and so increasing the amount of people getting on TRT has made a big difference. But I really think like we're in such an information overload society that I think what that also creates is this like I don't know how to explain this properly, but basically it's like it's just overwhelming, and there's so much in front of you that I think a lot of men just end up just surviving, and they don't really think things through very well because they've kind of gotten into this lazy pattern. I don't want to say call men lazy, but like they get into this lazy pattern of I keep the status quo. Well, I'm tired, I'm exhausted and fatigued from my work day, my family life, whatever's going on.
Well, let's dive into that, because you make a good point there. Is from a psychological standpoint, we create benefits, right? That's the reason there's no other reason to stay in the status quo, as you said. Right? The reason you're going to stay in the status quo is there's a benefit to me. There's a reason I'm staying here, because it benefits me, even though when someone from the outside looks and goes, no, there's no benefit to you staying in the status quo, but there has to be in order for you to be there, right? So we can break down a few things. Like the most common thing is the fear of failure, but I think the real common one is actually the fear of success, right? The fear of the unknown, the fear of what's coming next. It's releasing things that I perceive to be a safety net, and this can attribute to many different things. If I need to get in shape, I'm going to have to endure pain, sacrifice, time, and things in order to get said shape. And I know, and it's not as if guys don't know this. I think everyone's well aware of it, but what seems to happen is it's almost like you said. It's almost like there's the switch or point where you just can't discern the work. And I'd say there's two factors for me, right? The first factor would be I know that it's going to take work. I'm not willing to do the work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the victim, find every excuse I can to avoid said work in whichever way. And that's making excuses for whatever's in front of me. Oh, I can't do this because this is happening. Ooh, that's too much. Ooh, I can't, I can't will come up consistently. Or there will be blame for someone else for you not being able to take your own actions.
That's easier to blame.
Right. That's the first one. That is a completely different problem that we're talking about today, because that's a personal problem you need to deal with.
Yeah.
Right. What we're talking about is the guy who really wants to. He wants to do the work. He's actually psychologically zoned in. He wants to get this done. But he seems to be in some sort of analysis paralysis in regards to what are the next steps that I need to take in order to get here. As you said, is every problem, depending on how you perceive it, is overwhelming. Every problem.
Well, I think, like, I experienced this in real estate, and you know about what's going on with everything. That we just had a meeting with our local county here, and a lot didn't necessarily go how we wanted it. And my wife was on the call with me, and I give her credit for saying this because it's taking us. I'm using this as an example where she said at the end of it, because I basically was like, look, it was bumpy. We had some conversation last night about it too, and the ways we've gone about business, right? And like you said yesterday in the gym, where you have to just learn, right? Well, anyway, Sam said, do, learn, do. Most people learn, do, learn.
Yeah.
Right? And so for years, that's what we did with real estate investing was we would learn, sort of do, learn.
Yeah.
And it would keep us on the sideline for the longest time.
Yeah.
Well, the only way to do anything and to really just you got to just dive in and kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? And so some action is better than no action.
Yeah. A bad plan's better than no plan.
Correct. And so I think what ends up happening, like, there's a lot of folks that want to change, or they want something better in their life. Maybe it's a business venture, it's a fitness thing, whatever it may be. And then, like you said, they go into this, mode of just, I'm going to analyze it 32,000 ways to Sunday and never actually do anything.
To a degree, I'd agree with what your earlier statement. We have so much information available, right? And I think it creates... my opinion is it creates this double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
The one side of the sword is I have all the information available, but it's so much information available. I don't know how to pick this information apart in order to apply it to what I need, right? That's the first side.
That's a good point.
Okay. We live in a time frame where you can access AI, like every possible piece of information you think that you want in regards to how to do something.
Yeah.
YouTube videos. You can literally, you don't need, if you really want to study, right, you don't need to get a degree anymore. You can learn everything that there is learnable on earth in a way through YouTube, AI, internet that'll provide you all said information, right? So now it's no longer an excuse to say, oh, well, I didn't have the ability. There's no access to information. I don't know where it's coming from. It's everywhere, right?
It's everywhere.
So it's that's the one side of the sword. There's this overwhelming amount of information. Now that's navigatable as well. That's just willpower. You just have to want it enough to be able to discern and go through that, right? But I think the other side of this is I think there's innate fears in whatever that said task is. And you mentioned before is I did a correlation yesterday, some research for today's podcast, and I was looking at the drop of testosterone levels in men, right? So it's a widely accepted fact. Again, there could be some arguments against this, but it's a widely accepted fact based on certain studies and research. And Andrew Hubman has spoken about this on his podcast, and a couple of other really well-educated people, that the testosterone levels of men now at base level, so a 20-year-old today's testosterone levels are dropping to 1/3 of the testosterone levels of his grandfather at the same age, right? Which means that we're in a time frame of life because of contributing factors, lifestyle, lighting, everything that is our modern lifestyle creates a drop in testosterone. It's also one of the reasons that we have a massive drop in birth rate.
Yeah.
Right? Birth rates in third world countries are through the roof because their way of lifestyle is very much stress-based, right? Now, stress, again, can kill you, but good stress can actually drive up testosterone.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of contextual ways to look at this. But the fact of the matter is, in Western countries, we have a massive drop in testosterone. And your point as well is there's enough studies that showcase that once a man gets on testosterone therapy, he has low testosterone, the advent of depression, right, suicidal thoughts, they start diminishing, right? And there's a percentage based on there. I'm not going to quote it because I don't know the exact numbers, but there's a significant increase in that person's mental health state.
Right.
Now, if we take that in consideration, right, so that's one factor. So that's the mental. That's the other side of the sword. We're sitting now in a modern state where if you're a man, you're bad, right? So society says men are bad. It's been going like this for a couple of years. Men are on the back foot because, in one sense, I think it's going to make us better in the long term, and in the other sense, is it's very difficult. If you think of being a young man today, right, anything from the age of 16, right, to 25 years old, even up to 35 years old, the type of things you have to attribute in society today are not the same as we had when we were children.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And in order to navigate these, you're navigating in a very different world to what we did. And we're starting to see there's a slight change where masculinity is no longer seen as, there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's just masculinity. If you perceive it to be toxic, it's a lack of masculinity. Because masculinity defines that you take the high road. You're a man. You do the right thing, right? You make the right decisions. It's not masculinity that rapes. It's lack of masculinity. It's lack of being a good man. So the word's been crumbled. But this has been a social contagion that's been driven into young men as well.
Yeah.
You're not capable. You can't it. You will never do. So all the same things that men have been hit with consistently through the age of life is like men are consistently hit with, you're not good enough, you have to compete, you've got to be better, you're not good enough, you've got to get up, you have to compete, you're not good enough, you have to compete. Now this is solved into multiple different layers in society now, along with the fact is, well, you're a man, you're bad. No, you see there's a massive breakdown in relationship structures within Western societies because we keep dividing, which, we can go down a rabbit hole, is they divide. It's us and them. It's women versus men. No. Yeah. We require each other in order to move forward.
Yeah, I agree.
Women don't need men. Men don't need women. No, we do.
Yeah, we need each other.
It's very important. So,
but I think what's happening in today's world when it comes to the feminine and masculine aspect of things, it's like, they don't want the defined role, if you will. And to me, it's like, I'll use this example. Let's go back this direction. And yes, there's a lot coming out about the actual establishment of the United States of America, but this country was founded because we wanted the settlers wanted religious freedom, right? They wanted to be able to get away.
They wanted to get out of imperial rule.
Right. That was one aspect of it. There's a lot to it, but and the idea over the course of this country has been to celebrate our differences, right? It's we can live as one country, but have differing things.
Yes.
And at some point over the last 20 to 30 years, and again, this isn't meant to be a political podcast, but the reality is that's become where if you have a differing opinion of me, I can't accept or tolerate that.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to male and female roles, to me, I'd like to consider myself a man's man, a guy's guy, right? Well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with me liking sports, liking to go train, liking man things? I'm not the best when it comes to being in touch with my feelings and emotions. I'm working on that to get better. But instead of, telling me how much I need to change, embrace me for who I am. And I think that's what we should be, and there's the sad part is that I think what's really given some of the world we're in today, there's a small percentage of men that have done some really shitty things, and it now translates to the masses of what should be done.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's appropriate. Personal opinion. And I know this is a dicey subject to start going down to.
Honestly, I don't think this is dicey at all, because there's a couple of layers to what you just said. So the first layer I'd go down is I'd say, what happened significantly in the last 20 to 30 years to cause this? There's one thing.
Well, I think it's my opinion of what's happened is that, when Obama got elected and the national media narrative became racism and just taking us down this narrative that they wanted us to go down where everybody dislikes.
Which is fair. But that has happened in U.S. history consistently in different places. The only thing that truly changed was the internet.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. So Obama's first time he came in office, and regardless of what he did, like
1996 maybe when the internet came around? I don't remember.
But we truly started social media, like Facebook came out in 2006.
Yeah, I remember that.
So now 2007, 2008, Barack Obama sits in his first term.
I remember when MySpace, I think, was it Facebook or MySpace?
MySpace was the first.
I think that I was in college. Yeah. And I remember my buddies making like fake profiles for each other, gay profiles for guys and stuff like that.
So now the internet has fundamentally changed how information is absorbed and broadcast. Right. It's created a new advent, and it's not as if this hasn't happened in human history before. It's just the access is way wider. So the first advent,
it's connected us globally. I think that's a big place, a big factor too.
I think that globally is one sense, but I think far and foremost to that it's the access of how everybody can put information out. So think if you go back in history, right? So let's go back 100 years. If you wanted to get information, it would be by a newspaper or book. Right. Then a couple of years later, it would be radio. Right now, when radio first came out, it wasn't accessible to everybody. Some people would have to go to a place to watch radio. Television, same thing. When television first came out, might have to go to a bar, or it was very rare that people had TVs in the house. It was a luxury item.
Honestly, I like watching some older shows. We got King of Queens going on right now. You watch that one? It's with Kevin James. But I was watching last night. I noticed the one guy comes in. And he's got like this handful of newspapers. Yeah. And they're looking at classified ads for, I forget exactly what they were going for, but apartments or something like that. Yeah. And I was like, man, that was early 2000s. Yeah.
It's changed a lot.
It's not that long ago in the grand scheme of it.
20 to 30 years. Right. So, and then you go back further before we had printed press. Right. It used to be the king or the emperor or whoever ran it would have one person. They would ride on horseback. They'd go to them and they'd expel the news, right? It would be the messenger. It would go tell people what's happening or what's going on, and then stories would and things would be carried over either in written text, or it would be carried over by storytelling by the elders, right? So we've come a long way in the last 20 and 30 years, but what that creates is the difference, the fundamental difference on those, right? Is you and me right now doing what we're doing. We have the ability to broadcast information, right, to anybody who's willing to listen to it. And we have that ability along with billions of other people, right? The difference being is that's created a new vortex in regards to how we discern and push out information. Because it's not just about the media giants, because they're slowly dying. They're slowly dying, regardless of what we think is the way media is pushed out is dying. Yeah, because there's no more, people don't trust them anymore. Yeah. Like there's no more trust. Like, am I actually getting a real story? And then, the negative aspect of it, and I said this before, like, if you listen to national media, there's racism everywhere you go. Yeah, I live amongst people every single day and don't see it. I don't see any of the things that they put on. But the thing is that it's broadcast on a loudspeaker, and they've joined the masses now because the way you attain people on social media is through emotional hooks, right? It's it's literally a marketing term. Yeah, the first 3 to 5 seconds of the video needs to capture their attention. Create the emotional hook, right? And the emotional hook for news organizations is rage and hate. So it doesn't surprise me that we have this drive to separate. And here's the thing: here's where it gets truly complicated. I don't think in every instance, because if you can put your conspiracy theory hat on and go, "Oh, this is the big plan." I think it's just going out that way because it gets the most amount of clicks, because human beings by nature are divisive. Human beings by nature are tribal. We tribalize, we go with our own kind. Regardless of how good a person you think you are, you will attain to a certain group of people, a certain level of people, because that's how we're designed. So what the internet has done is it's provided us all this ability to put out this information. Now, how does that affect the young man or the man of today? The man of today now is living in the information age, right? Where if he opens up too much to these things, right, or doesn't open up enough, he's either ill-informed or he's over-informed, right? And over-informed, it can be a thing, because you can, if you have so much information discerning to you and driving in, it can drive you crazy. Absolutely. Right. So what do? What are the actionable steps in regards to when something happens in your life? Because we spoke, 2 podcasts ago, we spoke about cortisol levels, right? And how they affect people and what they do, right? So social media, consistent bad news, making you think the world is on literal breaking point every 5 seconds. Racism's everywhere. It's systemic. Everyone hates each other. Men hate women. That's literally just things that are pushed on you. If you sit and you actually listen to that and buy into that, it's going to ruin you because your cortisol levels are consistently spiking. The cortisol levels spike, what do we say? It drops your testosterone levels immediately, right? So you're already on the back foot because you can't not be with the information because we're living in the information age.
Well, to me, like if I work off my phone, so like it's hard for me to not have my cell phone nearby most of the time, but like I would really love to be in a space where I guess I've really, let me say it this way, I've really been thinking a lot about what it was like before these cell phones.
Yeah.
And just because I'm like, part of it's nostalgia, but it's like, you didn't have all this like just information, and it's a good thing that we do. Like, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's the idea that like I just think back to a time when, what did you do as a kid, as a young adult? Like, what was the way of life? What did we do? Well, we did more social gatherings. We did more spending time with each other. We spent
more time with each other in person.
Right. We spent more time with each other in person. Yes. And then COVID really changed that too. Like a lot of these young kids that were like these high school age kids during that time, I feel real bad for because, they really had a disruption in their well-being, if you ask me. But like that, what did it do? It put everybody in silos. It put them all separated from each other. And you couldn't interact.
And it was long enough that it rewrote social norms that now that we're out of COVID, right? The effects of it is still pretty innate because you think of social groups, right? So again, I remember before COVID is you'd have more barbecues, you spend more time with people, you got to do things, right? Now it's as if those things are almost like the most foreign thing to people. If it's not a business meeting, I ain't doing it, right? And as you say, people retreated to their own silos, and what they're doing is they're retreating to their silos and they're sitting with their people, sitting with their family. And what we're not doing is we're creating connection with people on a cell phone, right? So we're putting out, I'm connected, I'm speaking to people, I'm talking, but you're not really speaking to them.
Well, I've noticed. I'll leave it at this because I don't want to reveal the person, but I have some relationships with younger kids. They're adults, but they're half my age.
Kids you used to coach, right? Some of them you used to coach.
Some of them, there's also some other that I'm thinking of, but like the person I'm texting is not this person I see in person.
No, it's a different human being. I've never met him.
I see their personality through the text. Yeah. When I'm in person, they're like afraid to bring out the personality. And it's like that's kind of what what I'm worried about with our youth is like it's too easy to put a screen in their nose, and say here you go. Like, I mean, my kids will watch Minecraft videos. They love Minecraft, and I just can't wrap my brain around it. Right? I don't know if you know familiar with that game.
You know what Minecraft is in the biggest sense.
I don't.
It's a fully there's Minecraft maps, which is the entire Earth, right? Literally, it's an entire world. Yeah. Right. Not a
digital world.
It's an entire digital world. One version is a copy of the entire Earth that you can navigate, change, and interact with.
So, like, but there's no end to the game. No. But like my kids last night, I walk in and they do like video games to a certain degree, but like they love Minecraft. They play it all the time, and they watch videos
of other people
or YouTube,
playing.
Wherever they're playing or watching that, and then they're sitting on the game playing, and it's just like it kind of drives me crazy. But they sit there all three on the couch, engrossed in this video because at that point the game was put away. They were just watching the video of Minecraft. And it was, I guess, entertaining for what they're watching because they were trying to accomplish something. Yeah. And it's like, it's almost sad to me where that's become, and we've always sat in front of couches in front of the TV watching movies and stuff going back for a long time. But it's just that interaction, that social dynamic that we're trying hard. We don't really give them a whole lot of devices. Like they don't get our phones, they don't get the tablets. They want to get on the computer to do their schoolwork sometimes. But like even that, I think it was is it Sweden maybe? They're going back to old school paper trail. They're taking all the computers and devices out of the schools to start teaching.
There's a couple of countries that are changing in. I think
I think that's great.
Australia instituted a age limit for social media.
Restriction, yeah.
Right, so you can't access social media unless you're 16 because you've got to prove age and so forth. Which, again, listen to what we're talking about, right, is we've only really had the real effect of social media, because social media is the connection point, right? Internet is just the platform. The social connection points have only really been around for 20 years now. 2006, 2007, it's 20 years, right? And there's been a fundamental change, but it doesn't surprise me because those fundamental changes through every type we have a technology jump has been pretty profound. When TVs came in, it fundamentally changed the way people interact at a dinner table.
I remember helping people move TVs, dude, because hey, you're a big guy, I need help, and you're moving this like TV that's got this giant back to it. It's heavier than hell.
Yeah, huge too, right? And
horrible.
And it's those things that again, make no mistake, is we're gonna adapt, we're gonna be okay, right? But if you're the man sitting in this world today and you're finding yourself struggling with making those small fundamental decisions, especially when they're related to a big life event, right? And you find yourself stuck, like you just cannot get out of a rut. There literally is certain things you should be doing, right? Like we're going to give some tips today on what do you do when you sit in that situation, because we've all been in them. We've all sat down and gone, I don't know what to do.
I'll share my story a little bit on in the corporate space. I was in a loop, and I didn't know how to break it, where I worked these crazy hours. I was unhappy in the job. I had a position that I thought I wanted. You know, like I had worked for this position, and I thought this was where I would, all right, I got there. It's supposed to be getting better. And it got worse for me. My stress level went even higher. I was in this like loop where I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. I'd gotten out of shape. I knew something was off at home. I couldn't put my finger on it. I would work these hours. I'd come home. I'd basically eat dinner with my family, oftentimes jump back on the computer, or I'd just sit and veg and watch a TV show because I was just like, I was stuck. Then the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, I'd go to Panera Bread just to work and keep up, most every Saturday and Sunday. And then in the afternoon or evening, all I wanted to do is just like chill out because I was so worn down. Yeah. Right. And it was this vicious loop. I wanted to change. I wanted to do it different, but I was like, what do I do? Yeah. And so what I did, and this is something I've got a history of, I like to really disrupt. Meaning, like, I'll I don't know a better way to say it, but like, I'll fucking burn everything to the ground and start over. Yeah. And I've had a history of that. And so I quit my corporate job, which was, and I did the same thing in the government space. And when I've always had this history, and I can go back to many examples where I would just be like, okay, it's time for a completely different change. And I would jump off a bridge basically and say, all right, let's go. Let's make this happen. And I would, take some bumps and bruises, but I figured it out. And in every instance of that, though, I'll run into people from that period of time that are still doing that same line of work, and they always go, man, you got out. And it reaffirms the decision you make. So let me ask you a question, because you say you burned the ground. When you quit your job, was it I woke up one morning, walked in, said to the boss I quit, or was it a strategic plan? Well, yeah, good question. So I always had a plan. Always had a plan, right? Okay, so this is just for people listening. That's not burning it to the ground. Kevin's looking at it like that because he's disrupted the change in a massive way. But what happened is there's two levels of this, and tell me if I'm right or wrong. The first level is you realized you had to make a decision, and then you're like, okay, the decision's made. So the decision's made. Now I have to execute decision. I'm so notoriously slow to the decision. And then once the decision made, I move at lightning speed. The change is quick. Notoriously that's my pattern. But it's planned and strategic. Always. Okay, that's the important part that I think people... So, like you are doing your family a disservice if you don't have a game plan. I will tell you, it was probably a year of building up where, without getting into like the whole corporate stuff, but like basically... I saw about a year in advance where I was like, this is not, I'm starting to be really unhappy.
Yeah.
Like I'm really, like this job is like way more difficult than I was anticipating. It didn't need to be that way. It was just, a lot of, the people game is a little side tangent for just a second. Like the people game is really difficult because when you're an employee of a company and you're working for people, like it's all about people's opinions, and everybody has a different opinion, and all it takes is one person to not like you and it just changes the game, disrupts everything. And that's kind of what happened to me. Right. And so because of that, I found myself like progressively getting unhappier and unhappier. And I was like, this just isn't worth it. And then they wanted to move me a bunch of times. So I recognized, like, I'm going to get put on the spot at some point. I need to be prepared for it. And we had been saving money, and, like, we had, a pretty nice goose egg saved and ready to go. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, that's something a lesson I learned a long time ago about just having the ability to walk away. And when they put me in a place that I didn't like, where I was basically being strong-armed, and I don't do well with that as it is. And so I'd already had my plan ready to go.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite ready to execute it. I didn't want to quite execute it. However, I was put in a spot where it was the right decision. And because of having that plan and constantly putting wheels in motion, I think that's where it ties into our original topic of, solve the problem. Well, if you're unhappy, you have to make a change, but you have to make a calculated change.
Yes.
You have to have strategy. You have to have a plan. Oftentimes it's around your job, when you need this disruption. And you can't just all of a sudden go from like, I'm a corporate guy making my six-figure income, paying all my bills, but no money in the bank, to tomorrow I'm going to go start a business.
Yeah.
If you have nothing prepared, nothing saved financially, you're making a bad decision.
Agreed.
You have to plan for that. So you're going to have to suck it up a little while longer, but create an exit strategy. Say, all right, I'm going to pick up a side hustle, or I'm going to start my side business. Maybe I know a guy that's doing a landscaping business on the side. He's got his corporate job. He's building up his clientele. Yeah. And he's going to start he started a landscaping company up in like the north area of Tampa, and he has a strategy / plan. And we've talked a lot over the years, so he's heard my story and my stuff. And you have to, you can't just like fly by the seat of your pants. Like that will definitely mess you up.
Yeah. So everything Kevin has talked about is, again, 100% true, good information. But what I find is what people tend to focus on in that is, like, you gave great information, get a side hustle, have a strategically plan how you're going to exit, know the reason you want to do it, how are you going to plan, or what are you going to do. Now, what I constantly find is when I have these conversations with people on a regular basis where someone will ask for advice, and I'll tell them things. I can see their eyes doing this. You can see that their eyes glaze over because I know what they don't know the question, but they're actually asking, well, how do I do that? Right? I know I've got to do this because realistically, everything Kevin said is if you're in that position, you know what the outcome you want. And I think some of us are able to execute these outcomes reasonably easy. But I think when we get stuck in analysis paralysis and we're like, okay, I know what I've got to do, but how? Also, how, but it's as if somehow there's something holding you back. And here's the tip, right? And this works for me when I hit a hard spot, is you have to be able to have a conversation with yourself, not in your mind. You have to be able to tell yourself what the steps are. And when Kevin says planning, you have to talk out those steps, step by step. So think of if I'm telling you to go, I want you to open the door of your car, right? You're sitting here now, open the door of your car, right? So I know what
are the steps to do
I know what the end result is. The car door is going to open, right? But what do I do? Most people I've dealt with go, I'm just going to walk over and open the door of the car. Okay, what does that entail? What's the process? Yeah, totally. Okay, I need to take my headset off. I've got to move the mic out of the way. I need to stand up from the chair. You have to break down the details.
Yeah, totally. I would. This is some advice I would give somebody. So again, if you're like, this is for around like I'm trying to exit, start my own business type thing. This is that type of advice. Get a mentor that's free. Okay, so a good friend that's somewhere that you want to be. Yeah. Right. So let's find, that individual that'll just take your phone calls. Then get a notepad. Because if you don't know what business to start, this was always my struggle. I don't know what business to start. Yeah. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Get a notepad and write down all the things you're good at. Yeah. then write down all your ideas and just keep a running list of it. And don't put a time bound on this. Like, just keep brainstorming ideas.
Keep running it.
Keep running these ideas. Keep writing them down. Cross things off. Come up with ideas. And each of these ideas determine how much capital would it take to get it started. Mm-hmm. Well, what can I do can I do it on the side? And here's something that I will tell you, man. Like, this is one thing that bothers me to no end. Like, I thought maybe you were going to go here with your point a second ago, but they ask you for the advice. They ask you for the input. And they give you every objection onto why they can't do that.
Yeah, that's human nature.
And it's like, well, you asked me how I did what I did because you wanted to do it. And then when I give you the steps, you basically give me all the reasons why you can't.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, one, I'm going to stop wasting my energy on that. But two, I'm happy to help anybody. I really am. But one of the things that's like, you have to be willing and want to actually do. It's going to be hard. Like, dude, I mean, let's be real. As a corporate employee, in the grand scheme of it, and their big thing for me was that they wanted me to move. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't want to move. But if I would have moved financially, my net worth would probably be it probably would have been much higher at this point. And then salary wise, I was in a position where we were tucking money away. I walked away from a really good thing, but I was fucking miserable.
Yeah.
And I lost the person that I was.
That's the balance.
Right? So I wanted that change. But let's be honest, these last 4 years have been bumpy.
Yeah.
They've been bumpy.
But they've been filled with growth, learning,
wouldn't change
new experiences, changes.
I would, but...
And I mean, what I'd go down to is I think all of us, when we have a fundamental change, and I mean all of us, this is innate in all of us. I do it, you do it, everyone does it. When we're faced with a difficult objection or something that would fundamentally change the course of where we're going or the perception of where we're going, right? Is we will find, especially if there's a comfort or a pain involved in letting it go, right? Or a comfort in keeping it where it is, right? And comfort's a weird thing because people get comfortable in the weirdest situations.
Absolutely.
You could take there's stories of homeless people that's living on the street, and they take this person, they've been homeless for 10, 15 years. And they grab them and they go, here's a house, here's a car, here's money. That person freaks out. He wants to run back. He wants to run back to the street because it's overwhelming. The change is so much. And you're like, but what's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with them. As much as he was homeless, as much as it was uncomfortable, there was a comfort and a knowing in what he was doing. And this change is going to rip all of that apart. So it doesn't mean that even though his situation, I'm giving him a house, I'm giving him all these things. To him, that overwhelming sense of change. And I think what we do is we will find ways, right? I don't think it's necessarily, I think there's a limit to it, but I think it's part of the process, right? You will naturally start finding objections to making a change. If you are finding objections to making the change, I usually find it's because you don't really want to make a change. You're thinking about it. You haven't decided. The decision hasn't been made. Yeah. Because once the decision's made, honestly, my experience with most people is once the decision's made, there's no stopping it. It's just how do I get there?
Right.
What steps do I take? How do I navigate? But and that falls into two different categories. I think the one is exploratory. So the first thing is we know that a change needs to be made and I need to do something. But I'm not yet ready to make that change. So I'm going to seek advice and I'm trying to gather information. That can hold you hostage for a hell of a long time. So you've got to be very careful. It's good to gather information. Yeah. It's good to kind of assess where you want to go. Deep down, you really know what you want. We all do. But you're still gathering this information because it's difficult to let go.
Totally.
And I think that's the first step. But once you've made that decision and you know that there's a change to be made, you then have to make that change, and that change has to be dissected step by step, problem by problem, and it's got to be done in chunks. Yes, I want to get to the end. That's the goal. But in order to get there, I've got to pick it apart piece by piece by piece. Some pieces are bigger, some are smaller.
Yeah, I think to help clarify that point a little bit, it's like solve what's right in front of you. It's like the wood pile you mentioned. You can't grab all the pieces at the same time. You might be able to grab a big, armful of them. Yeah. But that's solving that problem at that moment at that time. So if I can take 4 pieces of lumber at the same time, okay, great. I just moved 4 pieces, right?
Yes.
I can't think about the overwhelming aspect of moving this entire mountain of wood. And that's like, you have to solve what's in front of you.
Yeah, piece by piece.
And let's be real, like business in general is about solving problems, but so is life.
It's all the same.
It's all the same, right? And like, you know, I've kind of accepted that. I told you this yesterday outside, but like the journey is about solving the problem, you know. And I think it's like when you think about as you navigate this, one of the things that bothers me with social media is people really like to showcase their life and how wonderful it is. And I on one hand, do I believe that people have a good life and that they've figured it out? Yeah, I do. Good for them for posting it. But at the same time, like, you know, I kind of like what we've started here where, like, I've stopped caring as much about what's being posted on social media. We record the podcast, throw it on YouTube and the platforms. And it's just, it's a voice, right? It's like, to me, it's almost, I don't want to call it journalism. It's not. It's just, it's sharing our experiences. And I think that's putting it out there. But to me, I'm not trying to showcase that I got it all figured out.
No.
I don't.
No.
Like, I think the reason that we're doing this podcast is to share real guys just sharing their experience, but also like we don't have it all figured out.
Yeah,
my life's not perfect, but, you know,
same pains.
Like it's, you know, there's always like challenges, there's always struggles, there's, you know, things that come up each and every day, and it's just you have to just accept that, like, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, you know, the mindset. It's easy for me when things come up. It would be really easy for me to just go, here we go again. Why can't anything good ever happen to me? Or exactly what I told you yesterday in the gym after that call with the county. I was already working on a game plan.
Yeah.
I already had a solution in my head, and I wasn't upset. I wasn't worried about it. I was like, whatever, it's fine. I'm not stressed one bit by it, because in the end, I chose to say, I'm not going to let this bother me, because there's really, like, what can I do?
Yeah.
What can I do? I can solve the problem. That's what I can do.
And I think that's where we're going to leave this today. You know, I don't want to dwell too far into it, but you need to actionable steps, right? First, then make the decision, right? And not 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Make the decision. Once you've made the decision, now you have to execute a plan to execute the decision's outcome. In order to execute said plan, you have to break it down into segments. And as Kevin said, is start where you are. Where are you? What can I do today? And this is, you know, this is true for everything. Is, you know, if we're talking about 1,000-piece pile of wood, you're gonna remove 20 pieces. It's gonna make no difference. Right. It's gonna look exactly the same. You're gonna see very little difference, right? You want to get in shape. You're gonna go to the gym. You're gonna eat right. You're gonna get on the scale every day. You're gonna do all these things, and nothing's gonna change for up to 3 to 6 months, right? And then it'll slowly start happening. It's, you know, it's when you build a house. It's start with the foundations, but it doesn't pop up in one day. It's piece by piece. Mm-hmm. Break down your problem, or break down your solution. It's not a problem. You're breaking down the solution. The outcome requires a factor of steps. Yeah. Those factor of steps need to be dissected. The first tip I'll give you is, other than Kevin gave a great one, write it all down. Journal. Write down what the steps are. The other one is talk through your steps systematically, because what happens is our brains fool us. Right? The amount of times that I think about something and have the outcome, because your brain fires at such a high pace. Right. And because we have such a high level society where it's constant information, it's very, very quick that you can get sidetracked. Right. But when you sit down and you start talking to yourself, okay, today I'm going to do the following. These are the steps I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. While you're talking, you're going to pick up mistakes. And you go, nope, that won't work. I'm going to have to do this. That'll work out, but what if something goes wrong? I can do this. And you start talking through the plan. Right. Now, whether you're writing it down or you're talking, it's the same process. You're emoting it out. You're getting it out of you. Right. It's not sitting inside your head cycloning. And once you do that, you'll see that initially, you know, I hate the saying fake it till you make it, but in this particular case is fake it till you make it. Talk to yourself. Run through that process. You know, you have to be able to discern that plan and pick it apart piece by piece. And you have to also know that you need to work out the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. And you have to be okay if either happen.
I will tell you, you know, the worst case scenario is you need to know that. Like, you really do. Because if you don't, then Like, you can't go into anything expecting the best because it's not going to happen the way you want. Like, it's just not, right?
And generally, if you execute plan really well and you're well done, it usually ends up somewhere in the middle.
I'll leave a final thought of this. Like, I love everything Jason just said there, but my personal take is you got to crawl before you walk, but I like to skip walking. So if I crawl really effectively and I prepare properly and I can really like get everything, I'm slow. I said I'm slow to my decision. And then when I make the decision, I planned really, really well, and I can skip walking and just go right to jogging.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Because to me, if you do it right and you plan well, like you can kind of skip walking because you're going to be able to dive right in and you're not running yet. You're not full on running, but you're jogging. Yeah. You're getting going, but you don't have to walk per se because you've already done the work ahead of time to prepare, right?
Slow consistency will get you further ahead than sprints and stopping for miles.
Yeah. Slow to the decision, quick on the execution.
I like that. That's a good place to end it right there.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.